Thank you, Mike. I'm excited about game week. You know, we've seems like it's been forever since we've played, but you know, looking back on the last 7 months, you know, we came a long ways as a team. Added a lot of bodies. Overcame a lot of injuries. You know, overcame several academic situations and 25 days of practice in camp to get us to the point to where we can finally focus on game week. And it's been fun to try to get our guys focusing on somebody else other than themselves. We've worried about ourselves so much over the last 7 months that it's exciting to worry about somebody else, which is why we all are in this. And really looking forward to our first game. Excited to play our first game. Understand the challenges that Marshall's going to bring to the table. They're going to be a very motivated football team that are going to want to come up here and going to want to play well, and we're excited about them coming up, bringing their best, and seeing if we can match their effort and their enthusiasm to the point to where we can win the game. So with that said, I will open it up to take some questions.
You said yesterday that you had watched all of Marshall's last season in the past week. What is it that they do well? Were they doing anything at the end of last season that you think they can carry over into this year? And
yeah, anytime you play young kids, which they played a lot of young guys, much like we're playing this year, they returned 8 guys on offense and 5 or 6 guys on defense, and had a lot of freshmen sprinkled into their 2 deep, much like we do this year. They should come back ready to go. You know, won some close games last year like we did, got themselves to a bowl game, and won their bowl game, which is always positive in the off season from a momentum standpoint. So would expect them to be a better football team than they were last year. Not just when they played us, but also towards the end of the year when you watch the product that they put out there, and that should not only be improved with specific people. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Cato, their quarterback, and Dobson, their receiver, and adding some speed with some transfers in their secondary. But from top to bottom, going into year 3, Doc's going into year 3, and a bunch of guys that have been playing together for a couple of years, you should see a better product out there.
You dropped a little hint yesterday that you might expect them to run a different offense, or at least had to prepare for something different. Where did that come from? Where did that seed come from, and what do you expect? I guess.
Probably one of you guys. I don't remember where we heard it. I mean, it's the every press conference across the country, everybody's gonna be saying. I mean, who knows what we're gonna do offensively, right? I mean, nobody knows for sure. We may throw something else out there that they haven't seen before. Defensively, it's been widely known that we're running the 3-4 defense. Well, what's that mean? There may be some things that we do defensively that they haven't prepared for. I'm sure that their defensive coaches have been studying football across the country for the last 6 or 7 months and came up with some different things that they're going to do against us. So, nobody knows. Nobody knows going into the first game. You can assume. You can assume all you want to, but the bigger thing for game 1 are in-game adjustments, which I'm confident that our coaches are going to be very aware and alert of what's going on the field to the point where they can assess what's going on and then talk about how we need to attack it either offensively or defensively and get it communicated to our players to be able to adjust what they're doing.
Did you do different things in the bowl game than radically different things in the bowl game than you had done previously? Again, having time to prepare and only one game to be looking at.
Gave it to number 1 more.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably should have done that more. Right? I'd have to go back and study it, to be honest with you. I mean, when looking at what we did, we were successful in different areas, so hopefully we've capitalized on that and continue to improve on it. What we're going to do in this first game is going to be whatever we do well. So that's going to be 29 practices here in camp and 15 practices in spring, and we'll assess where we're at, and those are probably going to be the plays that we call.
Dana, what's the weirdest thing you've seen as far as like a surprise or a trick in not a trick, I guess, but first game that maybe you weren't expecting?
Oh, I don't. I mean, you can only put 11 people out there. So there's only so many things that you can do. And 5 of them are going to be linemen, and 1 of them is going to be a quarterback, and a couple of them are going to be receivers, and a couple of them are going to be running backs. There's only so many different things that you can do. I don't think anybody's reinventing the game. So, you know, and like I said, the biggest thing is going to be in-game adjustments. After figuring out what the plan's going to be and figuring out what they're doing, you know, on all 3 sides of the ball, is being able to talk about it and get it relayed to the players where they can adjust to be successful.
With Cato going from freshman to sophomore, first year to second year, how much do you anticipate his role expanding and evolving in the offense?
I don't watch him practice, so I couldn't tell you. You know, I mean, he's a kid that can move around and throw the ball pretty good. I mean, I watched him in high school, and he could do that in high school as well. So it's all about being comfortable with the system. I worry more about what our quarterback does as far as how, you know, he's become more comfortable in year 2 of this offense. He's become a little bit more accurate, a little bit more mobile, and a little bit more aware of what we're trying to do from an offensive standpoint, to where, you know, that should make a difference on Saturday. I assume that those guys are coaching him the same way, you know, but I don't watch him practice every day to the point to where what their plan is going to be. I couldn't tell you.
Jamie, you talked a lot, both last year and this year and today, about matching the enthusiasm and intensity of Marshall Company. Why should that be an issue for you guys?
It is every week. You know, I mean, we're always regardless of who we play. You know, whether it was Marshall last year or whether it was LSU when they were the #1 team in the country, it's always like that. You know, highly motivated teams are dangerous, which we know that Marshall's going to be a highly motivated team. One of the 3 things that we talk around here a lot about is playing hard, which playing hard means giving great effort and being a physical football team. So that's something, regardless if we're playing Marshall or the so-called #1 team in the country, we're always going to talk about that. And having lack of effort is something that's not going to be tolerated around here.
Do you think that they are more highly motivated than you are simply because of the circumstances of the game itself?
I don't know. I mean, we'll find out Saturday. I think our guys are pretty fired up and excited and motivated to play as well.
Does Dustin Garrison get snapped Saturday?
Depends on how he practices this week. We've settled on Sean being the starter for quite some time. So Sean will start. Ryan Clark will be the bigger back that we put in there. Bowie's been practicing really well. You know, Dustin hadn't had as many snaps over the last 7 months, so he will continue to practice them. It's a long season. If he's not ready to go this week, then we'll reevaluate it next week. That's just something that we're continuously doing. I don't think Sean Alston took a snap until game 5 last year. So, you know, especially at that position, you know, 13 games is a long season for running backs, where you're asking them to, you know, block, run block, pass block, run with the ball, catch the ball. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that position does. That means we need a lot of bodies that can go in there and do it. You know, so we got 5 or 6 bodies there now, and we're going to need all 5 of them, I can assure you.
Have you as a staff made decisions on red shirts for the freshmen at this point? Still evaluating?
Still evaluating. We'll do the travel squad Wednesday night. After the travel squad dress lift Wednesday night, we told the guys they still got to practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we may make some decisions on some guys that won't dress. If they don't dress, obviously they're probably going to redshirt, or we plan on redshirting them. If we do dress them, there may be guys that we just know we're going to put into the game. There's going to be guys that we may try to redshirt, but based on availability, if we need them, we'll play them. So that gets that, and I know you guys want some answers on it, but so do we. But you know, after the first couple of games, if guys haven't gotten the game, then we'll probably quit dressing them unless it's an emergency situation.
You talked a lot about Jordan Thompson over the entire course of the offseason. You know, what did he do as a freshman coming in to be able to lock down a starting job?
Just adjusted to the speed of the game. was always the big thing. Guys that, you know, if you would have had me rank Jordan with the rest of the receivers that came in and judge them 1 through 5 what I thought their speed was, I probably would have been wrong. It's how you adjust to the speed of the game. You know, how you play, how fast you play between the whistles, and a lot of that has to go with the cloudiness of the head. If they're confused, if they're uneasy and unsure about things, and their legs tend to slow down. If they got a clear mind and they understand what to do and they have a good sense for the game, then the legs tend to move a little bit faster. So Jordan's a guy that, and a lot of it had to do with being here in the spring too, learning things and understanding where to go and how to go there, that the legs move quite, you know, they move pretty fast. So he's a definite starter. Carl Joseph's a definite starter, same thing. He's not confused, so he moves faster and has had a really good camp, so he'll start at safety.
You might be able to say this about any player, any position, but with those two specifically, you know what they can do in practice and all of that stuff. You've seen them for many months now, but is there any concern or, you know, finding out how they actually handle everything on Saturday when, you know, it really counts at that point?
Always is. So it's like a real game type situation. There's always some concern. Typically, how you practice is how you're going to play. Typically. That you know, you may have wide eyes there the first game, you may not. Who knows what's going on through these 18-year-old kids' heads, you know. But you always got to kind of, you know, you got to keep that in the back of your head. You got to look at it. You got to be aware of how they are. You got to look at their eyes on the sidelines. They come off if, you know, if they're wide-eyed and looking up into the stands and stuff, you probably got to slap them around a little bit and get their attention, get them focused in on what really counts. So, yeah, that's and there'll be 10, 15, 16 guys that are going to be in that boat. Redshirt freshmen are the same way. You talk about some redshirt freshman guys that haven't played a snap. We got to monitor their progress as well. You know, guys like Cody Clay and Kyle Rose come to mind who have redshirted. Isaiah Bruce is going to start at linebacker, and he's never taken a snap here. He's a redshirted guy, but in reality, what's the difference in a redshirt freshman and a true freshman? I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. Maybe from a maturity standpoint, but from a game-type situation, there's no difference.
And you have gotten also to see what Donovan has been able to do since he's made his position switch. I mean, he seems like a guy that you guys have confidence in now, and he really hasn't taken many reps other than special teams throughout his career. I mean, for you seeing that development, are you excited to see what he can do on game day? I mean, are you very confident in him at this point?
Well, a guy like him, he's played ball. Yeah, he's a senior. He's a fifth-year senior. He's played ball. He's been in a bunch of games, you know, whether it's on defense or special teams, he's taken snaps. So I would put him in the category of whatever we see in practice is exactly what we're going to get in the game.
Garvin and Cook, how did you handle them to get them on the right track and zeroed in so that they were starters the first game? And
yeah, we handled that a long time ago. We've had lots of talks with them and lots of early morning workouts with them to see if they wanted to be here. They've done everything that they've been asked to do, and have been guys that have a lot of experience, that have been stepping up in the front of the lines, and two of the guys that we're counting on to be leaders on this defense, let alone football team. So proud of how those guys responded and have done everything that we've asked them to do.
How many true freshmen do you expect to see out there on special teams? I mean, is there, like, vaguely?
10. I don't have my depth chart right here in front of me, but I mean, we will dress out 10 to 15 true freshmen. Who gets what snaps is going to be based on how the game goes and what we need to get accomplished.
As far as the flow of the game, how much emphasis do you put on watching these guys that are in their first game? I guess that would come down to coaches, position coaches and everything.
Yeah, I can't watch all 70 of them, so I'll do my best, but that's why we got 15 other coaches out there that are, you know, whether it's box or sideline or whatever. I mean, the importance of being on the sideline is when guys come off the field, you look at them to see how they're acting, and you talk to them, you communicate with them. That's part of in-game coaching. So we'll look at them and see if they're tuned in.
And you hired some new defensive coaches this year. Last year you had to hire a new staff, you know, as a first-year head coach. how do you get them to coach the way you want to coach? I mean, everybody's got their style, but, you know, you want it to be your style, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. How do you blend it all in so that everybody's coaching the same way and on the same page?
It's all part of the hiring process. I mean, I hired guys that I've either coached with, or we have coaches on staff that have coached with them, or we interviewed them and talked to them, and these guys are fitting in well. You know, not only, I mean, I don't know what the question is. We've coached with them out there at practice for about 40-some practices now, so we got a pretty good idea what their coaching philosophy is and what the schemes are, and how these guys interact with guys, and feel pretty good about it.
Dana, in a perfect world, would you not have next week off?
Yeah. Well, we don't live in a perfect world now, do we?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, but that's just part of it. I mean, the switching of the conferences, it's not ideal, but we will, again, we know how to handle an off week. Everybody has off weeks. So we know how to handle an off week, and we will, you know, we'll come in on Sunday, you know, however the game goes, good or bad, we'll come in on Sunday and we'll watch it and get it over with. And then we'll practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll go out recruiting on Friday and Saturday. So that's how pretty much everybody's off weeks are. So we'll be able to get out next weekend to watch high school football games and recruit, and then get back here and get ready for a game week on Sunday.
Are you one of the coaches who you'd rather have, I mean, it seems like nobody's ever ready to go and they want more time, or are you of the mind that you know enough about this that you feel pretty confident, strengths, and what to avoid, that game plan set, you're good to go?
Game week?
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would have been ready a week ago. You know, again, we've been focusing on this team, which is our team, for a long time. And we got it to the point we kind of know how to line up and what we're going to do. So we could have probably done it last week and been just fine. So feel good about where we're at as a team, and feel good about who we got plugged in there and the schemes that we got. You know, excited that it's Tuesday. So we got 3-4 practices between now and the game to get our kids as familiar with Marshall as we need to get them. So, you know, that's what the rest of the week will be like. From a coaching standpoint, we feel like we know enough about them, as much as we're going to know about them prior to the first game. It's our job to get the players as prepared for this game as they possibly can. They're going to be prepared from a knowledge standpoint. They're going to be prepared from you know, just a ready-to-go standpoint. You know, but over the next couple of days, we need to show them a little bit more than we have.
Along those lines, then, you said the in-game adjustments would be important. How do you know, maybe not to do it too quick, to trust what you know? Maybe it was just one good drive by the defense, you don't want to switch it. There's a balance there, I'm sure. How does that go that first game?
Well, from our offense, it's pretty easy. I mean, they got to defend us. We don't have to defend them. From a defense, you know, we have to figure out what they're doing. You know, ultimately, the ball's snapped. It's about, you know, knowing what your keys are and knowing what your assignment is and tackling the ball. So, you know, I mean, it's still football. There's only so many things that teams can do. So we'll line up with 11. They're going to line up with 11, and we're gonna get it on.
I know there's always a balance you guys try to strike between actually hitting in camp and then hitting in a game, how it's not probably the same. But is there any concern about how guys are going to handle actually having to make these tackles in a game, in a first game every year, or you guys feel like you prepared well enough for that?
Yeah, I feel like we have. You know, I think we're fully prepared. We've played a lot of football against each other here over the last 4 weeks, to where we've probably played more live situations in the last 4 weeks than I've ever been a part of. So we're as fully prepared as we can possibly be.
A lot of the defensive guys have said that going up against your offense has really helped them prepare for the season coming up. How is the defense? What is the defense doing well at this point that's really helped you guys prepare and get ready?
They're stopping us a good bit, tackling us. Nobody knows more about our offense than 3 of our defensive coaches, maybe 4 of our defensive coaches. You know, Joe's been defending us and wide open offenses for 12 years. And so is Keith, and so is Eric Slaughter, and you know, Darren Roberts sat in our meetings for a whole year offensively. So we're not going to go against anybody that knows more about our offense than what our defensive coaches do. So you know, they've done a good job of defending us and pointing out things that have made us better.
Going in, you've got a few seniors that look like they have NFL careers. This is their first game of their senior year. How do you keep them team focused rather than focused on their own future or draft choices or draft positions or whatever?
I can assure you that's not something they're thinking of. I don't know how it's been in the past, but we're worried about beating Marshall. We're worried about what our game plans are offensively and defensively, and we're worried about going out there and playing well. And that's the only thing we're worried about right now. We're not worried about JMU. We're not worried about Big 12. We're damn sure not worried about the NFL. So we're going to go out there and do what we got to do to win this first one.
Coach, with all things considered, especially for the younger guys, is Marshall pretty close to an ideal first game opponent?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, just, they're not going to be the most talented team you play. There's the first game, so everyone's going to be pretty excited. As far as, playing in their first college game, would Marshall be?
Yeah, I'd be happy about playing, I said this on radio earlier, but, any high school would be fine with us right now. I mean, not to compare Marshall with the high school, I can assure you that. Doesn't matter if it's them or the New York Giants. They're pretty good, right? I mean, it's you take your schedule and you look at the first game and you prepare for them, you get your team ready to go, you prepare for the first opponent, you watch the films, you come up with the game plan, you get your guys ready to play. And if our guys aren't ready to play, then that's on me and our coaching staff. So I don't know what's the ideal opponent. We play one game a week, and that's the only game that we focus on.
You seem really confident, obviously, prepared. And you mentioned 7 months and 4 weeks and all that. That's obviously good. You guard against maybe that being a bad thing too, and that everybody is so ready, so sure on what they can do that, I don't know, maybe there's a speed bump or something, and who knows how that first reaction is to adversity this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's always an issue. I think we have, offensively, we have a lot of guys that have been in wars and strong leadership to the point to where they can overcome adversity. I mean, nobody overcame more adversity than we did last year. I mean, there was a whole bunch of stuff for a 12-month period that we overcame. That I was proud of how a lot of the guys overcame a lot of that stuff, and a lot of those components are still here. I mean, overcoming adversity is something that we talk about a lot because regardless, I mean, we overcome a lot of adversity in that Orange Bowl, and we won by a considerable amount of we were down. We were down the whole quarter and a half. So their adversity hits all the time. I mean, you need guys to step up. That's, defensively, we got 7 or 8 starters coming back that have all been, in some pretty big battles and have overcame a lot of adversity. I want to know which one of those guys are going to stand up and get in front of 22 of his peers and say enough's enough, much like Keith Handy and Najee Good did. That's probably the biggest thing that I worry about defensively is not having guys that have played or guys that have made a bunch of plays. It's guys that are going to stand up in a locker room and get in front of somebody and say this isn't acceptable, which Keith and Najee did a tremendous job of that. We're still looking for those guys. They're out there. I just don't know which ones they are.
Coach, I remember during the two days, Joe Madison and Jeff Braun said they want to put the whole team on their back, the offensive line as a unit. Do you sense that?
Yeah, those are fun guys. Those guys are 2 guys that will stand up and say something. Josh Jenkins has had a great camp, and Spain and Edgar have as well. So those guys, from an experience standpoint, have played a lot of football. They're having a good time. They're better than they were a year ago. They understand what we're trying to do a lot more. They take pride in making sure that number 12 is doing okay behind them. They take pride in the fact that if it's 3rd and short, we're going to give it to Sean and we're going to get the first down. So that's part of where we're at offensively is we got a lot of guys back that played a lot of football last year. I've challenged them to be better than where they were the last game we were out there. So we'll see how they respond.
Dan, in terms of that offensive line, last year you said they wore down a little at the end. You seem to have a little more depth there. Is there a regular plan to roll some people in to give you a little bit more or less fatigue at the end of the season?
Yeah, we got about 8 guys. We got about 80 bodies. I think last year we had 5.5 at this time last year. So we have better depth. We're practicing better. We're practicing smarter. You know, 10 weeks, first 10 games of the season, we practiced about 6 guys there, which is hard. So that's been a huge focal point. Obviously, everybody's got to stay healthy in order to have a good year. If the continuity that exists up front will remain intact as long as they're healthy and as long as they're fresh. So would do a better job of rolling people. I'm not saying we're going to do it in the game. We got our 5 starters. If somebody goes down, we have a plan at all 5 spots. You know, throughout the week of practice, we're not just going to rely on 5 guys to go out there and take 40 team snaps.
Have you found more depth now in the receiver position beyond 4 or 5 that you mentioned previously?
Not really. Got 4 starters, and then we'll roll people in. Ivan's done better. KJ Myers done better. Dante Campbell's done better. You know, we still got 4 or 5 freshmen that we're still evaluating. That we don't know who's going to be. You know, whether it's a second team guy or a third team guy, we're still trying to figure that out.
You mentioned waiting to see who the leaders might be on defense, but beyond that, beyond just the vocal guys, do you feel like you have a decent idea of what you might see in terms of quality and consistency of play when you go up against another opponent on Saturday on that side of the ball?
I don't know what to expect on all 3 sides of the ball. Nobody does. We know what our plan is. We know where our people's going to be. We know what our scheme is going to be. We get out there, and it's always. I can't wait to get to this first game to see what we got and what we need to get better on. I mean, everybody across the country is going to get better between game 1, game 2, and game 3. Why does everybody improve from game 1 to game 2 to game 3? Because you got to get stuff on tape to figure out what your weaknesses are, and you don't know until you play that first game. Just the way it is.
Have there been any major strategy changes, both offensively and defensively, with touchback on kickoffs being placed at the 25-yard line this year?
We've covered the rules. You know, we want Corey to kick it in the end zone every time. I think the biggest thing to guard against the onside kick things is a unique rule too that we've covered, and hopefully our onside kick recovery team is out there a bunch, and our onside kick team's not out there. But from a kickoff standpoint, I think the biggest thing to guard on is if you kick it in the end zone 3 times, not getting your kickoff team to say, well, he's going to kick it in the end zone. And then you relax, and you jog down the field, and then all of a sudden that guy's out there at the 35 before you know it. So, yeah, we've covered all that. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.